From Studio 255 in the Laramie Plains Civic Center, this is The Talk Shop and Brett Glass with your City Council Agenda Preview for the week of January 4th, 2026. Brett.
Good morning, Laramie. This is your preview of what the City Council will be doing this week in this new year. Happy New Year, Feliz Año Nuevo. The City Council will kick off the new year on Tuesday, January 6th, 2026, with a meeting that starts at 6:30 p.m. There's a pre-council meeting where they sort of organize the meeting at 6:15 p.m. And they're going to get right into some interesting things. There'll be a call to order, pledge of allegiance, roll call, public comment on non-agenda items. If you'd like to start off the year by bending their ear about something that is not on their agenda, you can get 3 minutes to do that. And then a consideration of changes to the agenda and setting the agenda. There's at least one item which, if it isn't changed in advance, may be a good idea to remove from the consent agenda, which is passed with no discussion. So I'll get to that in a minute. And then they will move right on. There are no proclamations or public hearings. They're going to move right on to what's called the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a list of items that council passes without any discussion or really any public comment. They just vote yay or nay on it, and they virtually always vote to pass it. The consent agenda will consist of accepting minutes from various boards and commissions, cemetery deeds, vouchers, which means basically paying various entities that the city owes money, and a resolution setting the day, time, and location of regularly held meetings of the Laramie City Council. They're not going to change anything about how they hold meetings. They're going to be on Tuesdays, and alternate Tuesdays will be council meetings and work sessions. So the first meeting of the month, the first Tuesday of the month, is always going to be a city council meeting, and then the second and the fourth, the first and the third will always be the regular meetings, and then the second and the fourth will always be work sessions. They're also going to have fifth Tuesday town halls again, and I'm looking forward to that because that is a good place for the public to come and speak to council about items without it being rushed the way it is at the beginning of meetings. There'll be a resolution recommended that the Albany County Board of Commissioners update the city representatives appointed to the Albany County Transportation Authority. That's no big deal. The city and the county do that jointly. And then there is one that I think merits discussion and probably merits being pulled from the consent agenda, which is the updated community partner funding application. What's that about? Well, every year the city gives money to nonprofits. They call them community partners. And in order to do that...
And for-profits in 2025.
Yes, well, this year there aren't any, there haven't been any for-profit entities listed. They did that, and there was some concern about that being appropriate. So now it's all nonprofits, community groups, and they ask that each of these groups submit an application. And I actually spoke before council and told them that one thing that they absolutely should do to make sure that they were doing their due diligence is ask each group for its IRS Form 990. What is IRS Form 990? Well, it's sort of the tax return for a nonprofit. It basically tells the IRS how much money they're getting, where they're getting it from, how they're spending it. And the idea is to make sure that they're spending it on purposes that are allowed by the tax code. They're not acting like a for-profit entity. They're acting like a nonprofit entity. And, well, unfortunately, the form has a mistake in it. It asks the nonprofits for their Form 990-N. Now, okay, for those who aren't nonprofit geeks, there are 3 versions of Form 990. The regular Form 990 is filled out by large and rich nonprofits. A good example of that here in town would be Laramie Main Street. Ones that deal with thousands and thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars of property, of income, of expenditures, things like that. And then there's a Form 990 EZ. and that is for smaller and more simple nonprofits that don't have as much to put on the form. And then finally, there is a Form 990N, which is basically the equivalent of a postcard. It says, "Hi, I'm here. I'm a nonprofit. I didn't spend very much money at all, but I'm just letting you know that I'm still in existence." Well, the city form, which is the city application, which has been proposed, only asks for the Form 990N. And so the nonprofits that they're most concerned with vetting don't have a Form 990N. And that's a mistake. They should ask for whichever Form 990 each organization fills out. And they should also specifically ask for the complete Form 990, which includes information about who gives them money. The reason for that is that there are many websites out there that publish Form 990s, and they leave out the crucial Schedule B from the Form 990, which says where the nonprofit gets its income. The city is going to want to know that. They're going to want to know who is really behind the nonprofit, who really supports it. And so as a result, the city should change the form that they provided in the agenda, which talks about Form 990, and insists that any organization that wants to be a community partner submit its complete Form 990, whichever one it submitted to the IRS. That way, council will be fully informed. They'll be able to make good decisions about which nonprofits are worthy of getting money as community partners. So anyway, that's the consent agenda. After the consent agenda, council will move on to the regular agenda. And the first item on the regular agenda, which is item number 11, which is original ordinance number 2116, amending Municipal Code Title 13, Division 7, Chapter 13.80, related to surface water drainage. So here we have the surface water drainage issue coming back up again. And there is here an ordinance which council is considering approving, and most of the ordinance has to do with how to charge condominiums and individual condominium units, as well as the common areas, for stormwater drainage. There's also a section which talks about how the amount that the city is assessing in stormwater taxes is calculated. But it really omits the things that the public asked for. Nowhere in here is any change to the fees or how they're assessed. There's no cap on the people who are charged excessive amounts because they have a lot of land that maybe they're not doing much with, or they just need a lot of land for their business. There's no talk of a deductible, which might give people who are who are at the lower end of the income scale or the lower end of the land ownership scale some relief. There's no change in the rate per unit of impervious surface area, so that everyone's being charged the same, so that maybe people could be charged a little less. And so none of the things that the public asked for as changes to this system are being considered here.
Or the public we heard.
Yeah.
There could have been public that submitted emails, and we haven't submitted a FOIA request for public records information request for that
It's
information.
possible,
And
yes.
It is claimed.
It
It is
is.
claimed by some city council members that they've heard comment from others not being heard at the podium at a city council meeting per se. So there is that possibility, Brett. But your
Yeah.
point's well taken and accurate for the meetings that we've sat in.
Yeah, well, anyway, if there is, by the way, normally when there is public comment, it's actually attached to the agenda. Not always, but but much of the time. And there is none on this item, at least so
They'll
far,
put that in the
attached to the
packet.
agenda.
They'll put that
Right.
in the packet, public comments and emails.
Yep,
Okay.
to make sure that all the members of council see it.
Oh, nice.
There is none attached. So if there is any, and again, it's possible to file a public record request. It's not being brought forward in the packet. So
Cool, thank
maybe
you.
it's significant or maybe it's not. But again, there are no major changes here. There is no provision here requiring an election, as is required by state law, where the voters would approve the funding scheme.
As noted in 1610-105, subsection E of Wyoming statute.
Exactly. There is no change here talking about how the tax is to be collected, which under Section B of that same state statute is required to be collected by the county treasurer or the county assessor, and not the city. So, while there are some changes here, the most important ones that have been noted and requested by the public are not incorporated. So that's unfortunate. We'll just have to see whether in the future there are further amendments that do that. So anyway, after that, other items on the regular agenda, there is a resolution approving the proposition, which will be on the ballot, for the imposition of a 1% specific purpose excise tax in Albany County. This is basically to renew the fifth penny sales tax. And there's a resolution which talks about exactly how that money would be spent. That's required by state law. And if you want to see that, then if you look at the agenda on the city website, it will go through how they've chosen to allocate that money. By the way, if you do want to go to the city website to see any of this, go to cityoflaramie.org/agenda center. It doesn't make a difference how you capitalize it. It'll work regardless of whether there are any capital letters in there. And you will see the agendas for all of the city boards and commissions and the city council. Scroll down to the section for city council, look at the item involving this meeting, and you can pull up the agenda. If you pull it up as HTML, there will be links to all of the supporting documents, including, again, this itemized list of how they plan to spend that money. And that is it for the regular agenda. The city will take more public comments if anyone has any public comments, and then they will move on to consideration of future work session and meeting topics. And if you look at the list, which is, again, attached to the agenda, there's going to be, on January 13th, there's going to be a work session where they'll talk about Reconnect West Laramie. That is a transportation program to provide transport from West Laramie into Laramie proper. This includes not just public transportation, but also bike trails and walking paths and other such things. Then there will be city council updates and council comments. Not a very exciting meeting, but they will be talking, if you're interested in transportation, especially if you're a cyclist and you want to find out what they're doing in terms of providing bike paths, that might be an interesting meeting for you. And if you look further ahead on the schedule of upcoming council meetings, on January 27th, the city council is going to receive a visit from WYDOT. And WYDOT is going to be talking about the STIP, the state transportation plan. Now, this is significant because the city of Laramie, the WYDOT, without input from the city of Laramie, has recently put up no left turn signs along 3rd Street. These are electronic signs which are blanked out most of the day and turned on at certain times that WYDOT has decided it might be a good idea to prohibit left turns. Not all of the times when they've turned them on have been good times to prohibit left turns, at least not so far. For example, at 5 o'clock on Saturday evening, when there was basically no traffic, but people might want to go downtown, they were prohibiting left turns into downtown. At the end of the day, when people were trying to get to the post office, they were prohibiting left turns on University Avenue, which is the main route for people to get to the post office. That was diverting people to Ivinson Avenue, where they had to cross 2 additional crosswalks, stop at 2 additional stoplights, and then double back to get around to the post office. It was actually creating more congestion at the next intersection. And so this would be an opportunity on January 27th for the public to talk to WYDOT about what they are doing in terms of regulating traffic on these streets which are considered to be state highways in the city of Laramie. If you want to see, again, the full schedule of upcoming council meetings, again, it's on the website. Another item on this schedule which is of interest is the city council retreat. City Council every year traditionally has a retreat over the weekend at the beginning of the year, and January 24th, that's going to occur. It's going to be held at the Municipal Operations Center, the Municipal Palace north of Laramie on Highway 287. And last year there wasn't good video of that, so I'm hoping that this year they're going to resolve it. They now have better equipment out there. Hopefully we'll be able to watch as our City Council considers that. It'll be kicked off by a brief meeting on January 23rd on Friday night from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., and then it'll be a full day on that Saturday. So that's also coming up. And that's what we have in terms of City Council activities so far for 2026. Well, looking forward to seeing what they do, and hope that they will accept more citizen input in the coming year and be more responsive and again resolve some of the burning issues that are outstanding, such as the stormwater tax and other such things.
Your 2026 agenda preview for the City Council and the City of Laramie from Brett Glass and the Talk Shop concludes with support from Deviant Piercing and Tattoo. Their reminder today that the basketball hour with Sundance Wicks is tonight, 6 p.m. at Wyoming Ribbon Chop House. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back in a moment with another segment going into greater detail on a few topics of interest.